spends all that time to make a thumbnail. Oh, are we live? Is it live? All right.
Hey, you're kind of turned on right now, but
or not at all.
Well, you might be into bearded ladies, but that's why we have a special guest today.
Who is
a lady?
Oh.
Oh, there's a delay. It's weird. Okay. We're back. My name
show is so well oiled.
That's Jeff, and that's Pete. We do RC Babble. All right, I'm taking that off. Kind of turning myself on in a weird way.
Oh, interesting.
I like my mouth.
Where our names go?
I like my mouth.
Yeah. Welcome back to the show. The only show. We're not the only show. The only ones that we don't. We're not the only ones. We're
well written. Way to go, buddy.
Two guys with the same hat and one guy with the 1992 Element hat. Yeah, yep. That's where all the Goodwill stuff goes to Canada. We're here. Okay. We're going to be talking to. I always take the show as that nobody reads the title, which is proven time and time again, because you can do an entire video, let's say about paint or picture glue, and at the end somebody will ask you, what is that? So today we have a very special guest. He's fabulous. He got his nickname. We're going to find out why that became a thing, and if it was said with such I don't know how to fervor,
sarcasm, or was it real?
Yeah. If somebody doesn't know who this is like an old guy reunion show apparently. Because I'm sure there's people that don't know who Barry Baker is, and he doesn't know why
people know who Barry Baker is,
and he doesn't know why he's here.
Yeah, I have no idea. I was asked by Derek. First off, hey everybody, how's it going? Good to see y'all. It's been years and years, probably.
Yeah, so, it has. Yeah,
yeah. No, I got a message from Derek this week and said, "Hey, you want to come on our show?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" You know. I go, as long as I can give Jeff a little bit of ribbing, I'm good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect it. Yeah. Are you not a regular viewer, Barry?
I tune in and out every once in a while. Like I saw the show with Jim.
Yeah.
Campbell, a little bit of it here and there.
Like an hour. It's a long investment.
Yeah, that was a long one. Yeah.
What's your normal time?
An hour.
An hour.
Our first TLR show, Thomas Tran, myself, and Dakota went 3 hours and like 15 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, well, we could, but someone here usually starts yelling.
Look at Derek. Derek's like, nope.
I got to eat or something. 3 hours. Jesus.
Yeah, that's a lot of beer to keep cold.
I watch some of we talk about this all the time. This live stuff. Somebody will build something for 6 hours. I'd rather go to sleep than do that. But I mean, to each his own. You know, I watch weird stuff too. We talked about it. What are you gonna do?
I mean, everybody's got this through this whole pandemic. It's like people are like, oh, hey, you know, I can do a video show now and let's build turnbuckles. And we'll sit here for 3 hours and watch how you build turnbuckles.
Nothing worse than building turnbuckles, but then to watch somebody build turnbuckles. Great.
Right.
Somebody send me a link to that turnbuckle show because that sounds hot.
I think next week we're going to start it with me building the turnbuckle and me swearing. That's about it.
The worst thing is there's probably like 4 out there. There may be 3 or 4 of those videos. So you're going to be set for like a full day, Peter.
Yeah. And you'll really know how to build turnbuckles too after watching 4 of those how-tos. Yeah.
I still don't put them on all the same way. It's too hard, to be honest with you.
What do you mean? What?
You know, how do you put turnbuckles on? Do you put them both the same way? Do you put them this way? How do you put your turnbuckles on?
I have a rule that I've had personally forever, and it's the greatest thing in the world. When you roll a turnbuckle forward on any of my cars, it gets shorter. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to look at the threads or look at the line. If you roll it forward, it gets shorter. If you roll it back, it gets longer. Every car I've ever owned for 30 years.
Every car I've ever owned is when you pull it back, it gets shorter. And when you push it forward, it gets longer.
I could learn you quick then, yeah.
But all of Dakota's cars that I work on, and like Todd's cars and Frank Root's cars and all of the Losi guys run the turnbuckle the opposite way, the way you like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't care which way it is, as long as it's all the same always, so you don't ever have to stare at a thread. That's right. I don't want to have to try and figure it out. As long as I know.
All the turnbuckles should have lines on them.
Yeah.
Most of the turnbuckles will have lines, so you know which side is the reverse thread.
If you do it your way, your lines are always
on the right
side.
All my lines are on the right-hand side every single time I build it.
So as long as there's a system, it works.
In the back of the car.
So has Dakota ever been like, "Hey, thanks for throwing your setup on my car, Barry, but why are my wheels like this?"
Yeah, all the time. But the kid's so good. He's like, "Wow, that had a lot of steering."
We're gonna do a little recap of why Barry's here because he doesn't know. Because it's a funny story. So we were chatting about when everybody was more into RC, like RCX period. I don't want to say more into RC, but we were all in RC as full-time jobs, everybody here, I think. And somehow it came up that somebody was super pissed off that they didn't win Driver of the Year. And Pete wouldn't tell us who it was. So it was a running joke, even though somebody guessed it. And finally we found out. And basically, so for 2 shows, I just said your name in the beginning of every show.
Oh.
He said, somebody here.
Are you looking down right now? Because I'm below you right now on the Brady Bunch chain.
No, but somebody here, so hard. This guy.
Oh, Peter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pointing to somebody.
Yeah, I told you. I told him I don't need Barry Baker mad at me. So
I think I was. You know what the funny thing is about it is I can go and blame Car Action all day long for that, but it's supposed to be a Reader's Choice Award, and
that's what I told you at the time.
But we all know that's like that's like the mail-in votes. Some get lost, some get posted 100,000 times. It's whoever's favorite or whoever advertised the most at Car Action. Their driver won.
It is. I always just counted whatever votes came in, but it was frustrating because I was like, I like Adam Drake just fine, but like Adam Drake again? Because I was empathetic when you were like,
answer this question for me, okay? In 1992, okay, I won.
Sailed the ocean blue.
He did on the whatever, the Aunt Jemima or something. No, I won. I TQ'd the Worlds, okay, in South Africa. I TQ'd and finished second. I TQ'd the gas sedan Worlds. I won the U.S. Nationals in carpet and on asphalt, and I won the race that year, and I won another race that year. And it's like, okay, I won the most races, TQ'd the biggest class, the biggest of the year, and I lose to a guy who won the Dirt Nitro Challenge.
Can I say something? What year did you say?
Yeah, it can't be 92.
Yeah, 92. There wasn't even a real.
Sorry, 2002.
So that makes more sense. Yeah, that makes more sense. Sorry. Like we're off about a decade here. I think
I was so fired up right then. I missed a decade.
Well, to your point, let me disabuse you of the notion that you could just buy the result, but you could buy it in a sense because if you promoted your driver the most, or readers saw that guy the most, that would make a difference. Yeah. I think that was the era of Adam's big head and a temp gun ad and that kind of stuff. And I don't think Car Action readers, and not a diss against Car Action readers, but I don't think they were super tapped into racing. So it's like, who's your favorite driver? Because I mean, honestly, number one favorite driver, if I really wanted to give it to the most votes, it would be me. Like not me, but the readers would put like their name or something. Right. And then like once you filter those out and you got the people who actually followed racing or seem to care about the question, then you get the real drivers. But it was never about who won the most. I can tell you that.
I do agree that there would be a component of who had the most ads with Trinity.
And once the driver wins that won that award, they would have like momentum for the next time because the reader's like, oh, I don't know, that guy from last time, he still seems cool, and I saw him in an ad, or people talked about him in the Mac. Because again, pre-internet, if it was RC, you found out about it in Car Action. So,
but I mean, to this day, I was like, well, that stunk. And yeah, I was mad about it because I mean, those were the very angry days that, I would get angry if my shoe, was a little too tight or something like that. But the problem was also is I needed to realize that Adam was the fan choice at that time, or Brian was the fan choice at that time. And the reason why is because they did their self-promotion. I cared about racing and winning, and everybody else cared about their advertisements, and advertising out there. And to this day, I still think the person who's out there the most and does the most for the industry has got to be Adam. I mean, he's got videos out there helping everybody. I mean, he's got a new website out there that, gives you, if you own an OS engine, you can go right to his website and find out what settings you need to put them at to get your engine back to somewhat close. I mean, who does that for people? You can't even go to the factories.
To add insult to injury, after Barry doesn't win the best driver, you got to put Drake's name on his face.
You should give me Adam's face. I would have addressed him as Adam.
But I mean, and I would say, Barry, like, to your point, you did your job. You went out and won races.
Right.
And your sponsors have said, you know what? Why are we paying Barry again to win races? Why do we pay him to win races? So that the stuff he uses will sell. So we should probably put him front and center in the ads. Barry won the Nats, Barry won the world, Barry won whatever using product X, Y, and Z. And that probably would have made you a much more likely contender for whatever year that was.
But if you weren't so grumpy at the track.
What's that?
And if you weren't so grumpy at the track.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that also garners attention.
No, but for every person who thinks like, oh, Adam won because he's a great guy, and he is. I mean, like, how many people actually know Adam or any of the drivers who won who could say it was about their demeanor at the track? Very, very few.
But I would say in that case, it probably did because, in the driver, you are tapping into a racer, and Adam was a very approachable. And I'm giving Barry a little shit. He wasn't not approachable at the track. It wasn't like you walk up to Barry and he wanted to punch you in the face.
It depended if I had.
I'm sure there were times like anybody. Just work.
It depended on what, Barry?
If I had a good qualifying run or not.
Yeah. Right. Sure. That's fair.
I know you yelled at me and Jeff a couple times. I'm trying to think of the race where
I've been yelled at.
Here's the problem, okay? People don't understand. If I didn't have that attitude, I don't think I would have been as successful of a racer, on the track. To me,
I can agree with that. Yeah,
because I wanted to win, okay, and I got upset when I didn't win. Yeah. Now you got people who are like, you see these videos and they're like, well, I did the best I could and I got, third or I got fifth on the 12-man podiums they have these days, It's like, oh, this is great. I made the podium and, I did the best and my companies are happy about it. Well, are they? No, that's not the secret to winning. But these guys are, if that's the way that these companies want it, I don't think they pay these guys, the amount of money that they get paid these days to finish 12th at every single race.
You remind me of when the Last Waltz, I think it was called The Last Waltz, the Michael Jordan documentary first came out. And people were like, oh, the big takeaway is Jordan wasn't the nicest guy. Like, who cares? Like, was that his job, was to be a nice guy? His job was to put the ball in the hoop, and he did it better than anybody.
Well, no, your job is both. Oh,
I'm not saying it's a license to be a total a-hole, but like, if it's like, oh man, this guy who's under intense pressure to like win this race, and that's why he's here. Like, he didn't have time to like tell me how turnbuckles work, and he didn't give me a hug. Like, come on.
But I honestly look back on those days, sitting here now, and I was not a good person. I was, even to my teammates, I wasn't a good person because, I wanted to beat them so badly because you have to beat your teammates, to win the race. And I tried to help as best as I could, but there were always these, oh, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I would never withhold things from people. I just wouldn't give them the full information right up front because I felt like I needed that advantage back in the day. And then I realized that even with equal cars, I was a better driver at points than some people were. But back in the day, you had, 15 guys that could win a race that you put on the track together. Now you're looking, 5 guys at these races. So, it's one of those things where it's like, I regret what I did, but looking back on it, I don't think I'd be the person and understand what I did if I didn't do it. And you learn from things. And in this day and age, right now, quite honestly, if I did the things that I did, I would have been out of a job, years ago because of the social media and the internet and everything. I mean, you had to wait 3 months to hear anything. Now you see somebody smashing their radio or getting upset, 35 seconds after it happened.
Radio in a while. I think we got to bring back the radio smash.
No. Yeah, right. Now there's a component to we won't get into names, but everyone, all four of us here can list 2, 3, or 4 people who have displayed behavior where maybe they wouldn't be the best one to sponsor. However, there's that other component where if you don't give that guy your radio or your motor or your chassis, even if he yells sometimes or throws a radio sometimes, he'll go get your competitor's car. And if we can think of a few drivers that were just so talented that you still had to give them a car. You still had to hook them up. You still had to put them on payroll because you don't want them driving the competitor's car. So I tend to agree with you, Barry, that you wouldn't be able to do that with social media in this day and age, but you kind of still could if you were as fast as, say, in your position at that time were, or as some of the other aggressive people that we all know who maintained rides throughout the years as well.
Put this in more perspective is in Formula One, where it's, whatever drug money is there for $1 billion. Those teammates don't like each other and they crash into each other and ruin the races. Being competitive is somewhat of a disease. I mean, if you look at it to where it changed who you were and you didn't like what it was, but you have to I'm going to crush everybody to win. That's winning.
That's right.
You have to believe you can win a race, and you need to go there thinking you can win a race to win the race, especially this day and age. If you go there and say, oh, I hope to just make the main, that's all you're going to do. You're just going to make the main. You have to have the mentality that, I used to go to races, literally walk into ballrooms, walk onto the track, look around and start giggling. And I tell the story all the time. People said, what are you laughing about? And I looked around. I even told Reedy this a couple of times. I said, I wonder who's going to finish second.
Right.
And I had that attitude going to races. And it's just, does that make me a jerk? In some people's eyes it does. But to Reedy, it was like, he's fired up. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
Reedy hated losing races. Me and him, we would fight about things, and because I would crash and make his motors look bad. So, it's like, it happens. But yeah, Peter, I don't blame anybody at Car Action. I was just an angry person, and but I'm glad I'm on the show because, you make fun of me. It's all right. I'm good. I'm good with it.
It wasn't making fun of you. No.
It's the best golfer that's never won the Masters. Is that what you're trying to say? Or, we have best racer that's never won a World. So that was Mayfield, but then he finally came through. So.
Oh, you've never won a Worlds. That's right. Well, you're with Searle then. Like you guys have however many.
I finished second 3 times.
Yeah.
It's okay.
What are you giggling at?
He's just like, oh, that's right. You've never won.
Hey, there's a few like Josh Searle's another guy like that who he's got like probably more national titles than anyone in the 30s or something like that, and he's never won a Worlds. There's a few really really talented drivers that we have in the industry who have come close, like Barry said, a few seconds and some TQs and whatnot. But to land a Worlds win, especially in a Traxxas car, Pete, it's tough. You like my Traxxas reference there?
Yeah, great one, bro.
We had a conversation about Traxxas.
They do have a 40+ World, so you never know.
Good God, everybody,
right? And we're all 40+, so we can all.
This is everybody. This goes back.
I just turned 50.
Are you 50 now?
I just turned 50 in May.
Oh, good for you.
I had a quarantine 50th birthday.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Barry, how old was the photo I used for the thumbnail? I'm sorry I didn't find one that was more recent.
It's all good. I just wish you would have known that. Serpent was the past.
I didn't even know you were on Serpent ever.
It was a blip in the screen that I just.
Barry, when I Googled your name, that's one of the pictures that came up first.
Well, I know because I used it as a Facebook photo for profile, and then it was at the Reedy race, and that was one of my better pictures. But
Yeah, I was like, why is he arguing about it using a younger picture? And I was like,
I think he's speaking more to this to the name on the shirt.
Are you telling me I'm not sexy right now? Look at this face. The face of mom still doesn't love.
But and I was trying to find one that didn't have the Red RP logo on it, because those guys get pretty uptight about people using their photos and stuff. But
no, it's just people. Walnuts is like, doesn't he know that it's, you know, he's a TLR guy? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, everybody. I mean, I'm Dakota's mechanic, so that's all that matters.
Derek, do you have the photo with Barry from Caltech that I sent you?
Yeah. I have to.
I thought I recognized that off of the Caltech website.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Now you have very professional. I gotta upload it. Where the heck is it?
No, the best was, you got to find the old picture of me on the front of the Nitro TC3.
I just looked at I went downstairs just to verify that I still had the box, and I do.
Go get it. Then. Go get it.
Because you want me to go get it?
Go get it.
I can tell a story about that photo. Okay. That was like one of the greater mistakes ever.
Hold on, wait till we have the actual box.
It's my understanding that you were nude from the waist down.
In this one?
No. At Caltech. No, I'm making a joke about the TC3 box.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you look good, Barry.
Yeah, that's look at the gray hair. Jeez. Photoshop.
It's distinguished.
I don't know.
Sorry, now I can't get it off.
There we go.
The old double click.
Yeah. Maybe if you would use, like, you know, Windows operating system, you'd be okay.
Just got to remember to push click twice. Pete sent this while we're waiting for Jeff to come back. Here's a little collection of your current whips.
From Barry's Facebook page. Look them up.
Hey, Barry, one of the things I noticed when I Googled you.
Yep.
Do you have like your own website? Because there was really no reference to you. No?
No, I never did that. I don't feel, I mean, come on. Really, all these people that make different, you know, Facebook pages, public figure, really? You're a public figure? No, you're not.
Well, but even on like some page of like, you know, accomplishments, nothing wrong with that.
Nah, I'm good. You know, I'm just happy. Like I said the other day to somebody, I said, I'm just happy to be able to do what I love again. Okay. And after 34 years of racing, 34 years I've been doing this. And I was done a couple years ago. I literally was done racing.
That was, I saw the retirement 2017.
Yeah, I was done and it was over with and I was going great and life was good. And, you know, we bought a house in Azusa and my job was going great and we got a dog and, you know, it was like the family's moving and we're all good. And then I had to have back surgery. And when I had back surgery, the doctor said, you need to find a hobby because you're not going to be able to do a lot of things, you know. And the hobby, the only two things I did was play golf and RC car race, you know, my life. That's what I've done. And golf's out. You know, because I don't have the money that Tiger has to rebuild my back the way he did, you know, to be able to swing golf club. But it's going to be multiple years. So I literally went out and bought a low-C car because I wanted to buy something that was going to challenge me because everything else, I talked to everybody and they said, get a low-C car. It's going to make it go fast.
That sounded hilarious, Barry. Sounds like you're saying the car sucks.
Well, no. This is what I heard.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, okay, good. Right. Okay.
No, this is what I heard. So they're like, you know, not many people run those.
8-scale electric? Is that when you came back or no?
No, I actually came back and I bought a 10-scale car.
No.
And I wanted to just go out and run stock, you know, spec racing. And my God, spec racing is the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's crazy, you know, but you know, you got to have the newest batteries and you got to have this and you got to charge at 4,000 amps and you got to do, you know, it's like,
don't get us started.
No, it's nuts. But, okay. I mean, now I run for Trinity, so I just get off the shelf motors and off shelf batteries and I'm fast as everybody else out there. So you like that one?
Oh, that was good. That was good. We'll give that. That's fine.
So I purchased a low-C car because I actually called Jason Snyder at Raw Speed because he was posting that he just built a Losi car, and I called him up and I said, "Hey, bud, how's that car?" And he goes, "Honestly, it's not bad." And I said, "Why does everybody talk, down on it?" And this is the 4.0. This is before the 5.0. I go, "Should I get the SR or should I get the regular, car?" And he said, "Well, are you just going to go stock race?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Get the SR." He goes, "Are you going to make a run at the stock Nats?" And I said, "No." I said, "I just want to go out and I want to enjoy myself and tune on the car and maybe give some information back to Todd," because I knew that Todd, was the president of TLR, runs the surface or is in charge of the TLR program, with Horizon, of all the, surface manager.
He's here right now. He's watching right now.
Oh, cool. Hi, Todd. And we were
just checking in.
I was hoping to just supply some feedback. You know what I mean? And I sent an email to Kevin Gahan when he was the team manager, and to Todd, and to Frank Root, who was the project manager, product developer for, the 10 scale program. And I said, "These are the things I like. These are the things I think you can improve on." And I said, "I don't even race for you guys, but hopefully," and then I got an email and a message back from Gahan that says, "That's the most detailed email we've ever got, and you don't even race for us." And I just said, "Well, I just, I got a vehicle." And he goes, "I tell you what, I'm going to set you up with an account." And it wasn't 100%. And I mean, anything was helpful at the time. So I just started purchasing. And then at the start of the year, they said, "Hey, we're going to give you 100%, but we want you to come on as a team consultant."
Consultant. I saw that.
Yes. So that was my title, was team consultant. It was worked out with Todd and Kevin and Frank, and with Ryan Dunford, who's the PD for the A scale program. And this was all worked out. And it was great because I got to do what I like to do and still be involved in the development of the projects. And they listened to a few things. They didn't listen to a few things because there were other things on the shelf already. But I mean, it's worked out. I mean, our product is awesome. I don't think, the 5.0 Elite is a great car. The 22X4, I mean, it's like the hottest selling four-wheel car out there. It's a great car straight out of the box, and our nitro car, the 8X, Elite, is great. So, I mean, we're still working on some stuff, but I mean, I couldn't be happier. I can honestly say this, and it's not because, anything else, but I can honestly say that this company, just being involved, I'm not getting a paycheck, anything. I'm just there to give it advice and help out and be Dakota's mechanic when he wants me to be there at nitro races. This, I by far feel the most at home in all my racing that I've been. But it also might be because of my attitude's a lot different now. I still get fired up and I get mad, but it's not the way that I used to. And I mean, there's times where I've talked to Todd and I said, "Look, I'm really upset about things." And he's all, "You got to take it down a notch. You got to be, cool and easy and stuff." But I think it's growing up was a big thing. But I also think that, I mean, this is home to me now. And I'm so happy to work with Dakota that, I'm not going anywhere.
Hey, I'm going to cut in here because I think it's funny that Shane from, remember, RC Tech just posted misses you from RC Tech. I just logged into RC Tech because I was like, I wonder if my password still works. It still does.
What is Shane doing now? We haven't talked to Shane in a long time.
Does he still own that? Didn't he own a hobby shop down in San Diego somewhere?
Yeah, as far as I know, he still does. You can ask him, Shane. But I thought that was funny. I was like, I wonder and I could see how long my password is. It's a 5-letter password. It's stupid, but I've never changed it since 2001, so it still works.
And Barry, I can tell you that no matter how angry a young man you may have been, you were not the angriest Barry Baker out there, because when I put hashtag Barry Baker in Instagram when I was posting about the show coming on tonight, I saw that hashtag Barry Baker. It had like 100 hits, and I thought, well, that's going to be Barry with people racing and stuff. So I made the post live, and now that it's live, I can tap hashtag Barry Baker and see what comes up. Turns out it wasn't actually you. It was a different Barry Baker, but man, this guy.
What did he do? Pennsylvania man arrested after mocking and sucker punching men. Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's worse than you, Barry.
So that guy has bigger issues for sure. And the rest of the hashtag Barry Baker stuff was like cupcakes and muffins and stuff.
That might hurt me trying to get a job back there in Pennsylvania. I go on social media and Google my name.
Well, Mr. Baker, this all sounds great. Did you ever live in Pennsylvania?
No, I have never lived in Pennsylvania.
Hey, we lost the thread when I did my exit.
Oh,
there you
go.
Look at that. Yeah. So OCRC, somebody came into OCRC the other day and gave a bunch of like old school stuff to them, and there's 2 Nitro TC3s still wrapped up.
No.
Yeah,
Did you get one?
They saved one for me.
Yeah, you have to. You got to get one.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
Jeff
Jake,
can tell you the story how he made Team Associated hate at the time Extreme. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Extreme got in a lot of trouble.
It was because of you and that car.
It was. I was writing about Barry, I believe, at the time. Yeah, I think it was 03 Barry. The full worlds. It wasn't the real worlds for Nitro Touring, but at the Ohio track.
you mean the one that Pavitas won with a broken steering wheel?
Oh, it was Pavitas. I don't know whatever it was.
I TQ'd and broke a diff screw.
Yeah.
This is a hilarious story too.
This is what happened. So I remember you guys had,
and Cliff's comment was, "Well, it happened to you and not a customer at a world championship."
Well, but I don't know if you remember, but you guys had anticipated this because you guys had in the pits diffs pre-built.
No, I pulled a diff out of Blackstock's car.
You may not have, but other people on the team, maybe Pavitas and whatnot, there were diffs on the pits, and I forget what the line I wrote was. I thought I was complimenting them, but Associated was not happy. I wrote something along the lines of, the Nitro TC3, which has been a huge qualifying car, is the fastest car on the track. Surprisingly, has struggled with hour-long mains, and I talked about some weaknesses, but Pavitas got it through, and blah blah blah. Anyway, they weren't happy with the fact that I said that they were struggling with hour-long mains.
No, the quote was that they got mad at is that it was finally able to finish a main.
It was. Yeah. Again, I was talking about how impressed I was with the car, but they had some longevity issues.
The problem is the truth hurts in media.
Yeah, well, and I'm not going to not write otherwise. Listen, I stood again. You may not have had diffs there. I was there in the pits. I saw the diffs on the pit table. It's only 4 screws. You know this. It's only 4 screws to change a diff or 6 screws to change a diff in a Nitro TC3. It was a very easy thing to do. So there was some associated preparation. Interesting that you hadn't. I guess you had some confidence. Well, you should have because your diff screw broke.
I never had a diff screw issue ever.
Right.
They were rated like 1 in every 25,000 screws or something like that. The head will break off. Seriously.
Well, I don't know if it was specifically I mean, you can speak to this more than I can. I don't know if the weakness of the vehicle in the diff was specifically the screw, but it's an electric car diff that was in the.
The biggest thing was the ring gear. It would lose teeth, especially on high bite tracks. But at that race, we introduced. Cliff sent me a bag of Cliff and Torrance sent me a bag of those white material gears.
Rather than the black,
right. The black ones, if on a high bite track, we would just blow ring gears off. But the white gear seemed to be okay. So I felt, why do you need anything, to put another diff in? And it just happened. And like I call it Cliff. Cliff was super happy because Mark won, right? And he's all, "Hey, we won," and he calls me up. He goes, "We won," and I go, "Yeah," He goes, "What happened to you?" I said, "A diff screw broke," and he literally says, "Well, I'm glad it happened to you and not a customer."
That's funny.
All right.
Hey, was it called the fix? Was it because Adam just? What was the fix? There was something to that.
They at one point put one of those like asbestos-y yellow rings in to have sort of limited.
Right, it was a slipper ring. It was like slipper material. And it was thick inside the 2 diffs. But that was designed. So we were literally trying to make when I left Yokomo in 2006. Was it 2000? No, 2001. Sorry. I'm lost.
In 1992. It was 1992.
I'm old, okay? Give me a break. So I left Yokomo in 1991 or it's 2001, and
Just kind of whatever Barry says.
Yeah, just edit me out. So in 2001, and they were just developing the Nitro TC3, and come to find out, I would go and run my Yokomo car at Crystal Park on a Sunday at club racing. On Monday, Team Associated would go test, and they would find the race sheets, and they would see what the lap times were, so they could see
they have a benchmark
where they were and had a benchmark in time. And I mean, I wouldn't hold anything back in practice. I would go out or club races. I would go out and I would try to win races, and I would do everything because I'm testing and tuning my car to be as fast as I possibly can. So they're learning stuff every single week by if they're making progress on their car. Well, when I left, I made a phone call and Cliff said, "Can you come? We'll pay you to come drive our car and just give us advice, what you think." And so I remember this very, very vividly because he called me on September 10th, 2001. And on September 11th, all that stuff happened. But it was set, we were set up to go run on the 14th, which was Friday, September 14th. And I remember because it was really eerie because Crystal Park was near LAX and there were no planes in the air when we were up running. It was kind of crazy. It was weird feeling. But I went there with Torrance de Guzman, God rest his soul, Dwayne Silva, and Cliff. And we all went up and we ran that day. And I think I got my job at Associated because they were keeping me on the driver's stand and they were making changes to the car. And I went out one time and I came back and I said, "Can you put the caster back?" Because the car jacks itself into the ground too much. And I think you guys, by moving the caster on that run. And Cliff looks at Torrance and goes, "Well, I guess he knows his stuff." Because
not every pro driver does, by the way. Some, as you know, some of them are just so talented they're not actually that good at setup.
Yeah, so I mean, they said, come into work, and I was working, part time, and I was going in and building stuff and doing, and then worked a couple months, and then in December, like we went to the Associated Christmas party, and Cliff and Curtis Husting and Roger Curtis and Gene came up to me and said, "Congratulations, we're going to hire you full time here, and we want you to work in the R&D department." So that's how I got my job there. I mean, it all started with that.
How many radios did you smash while driving the TC3, Nitro TC3?
That wasn't the car I got most upset about. No, I've never smashed a radio.
No?
Never.
Or you broke your hand smashing a radio or something.
Exactly. You showed up with a broken hand.
No. The radio was in my left hand. I broke my right hand.
Is that okay? Right.
And
I saw you just after that.
Literally punching straight down like this, not this way. This.
It was a Reedy race, right?
No, it was you guys have not. Everybody.
92. You just said fucking 92 was your like.
It was around 07 because I saw you at Fast Cats in Canada right after it happened. We talked.
It was 06.
So they're okay, right?
We were testing the TC5, the new belt car, and they made all the parts out of Delrin, and we went to Italy to test, and it all started in Italy because the Worlds were in Italy that year. So we went to the track to test this car. They flew Drescher in, all this stuff. It all started over in Italy. Bob Stelflew almost got arrested for killing somebody when he got into a car crash.
I was there, by the way. Yeah.
So, but this was before the Worlds. This is even before the pre-Worlds. This was just, we were practicing this. That was actually the first weekend I ever met Ronald Volker. And I'm like, wow, this kid's fast. Well, look at him now. So, I mean, but we came back and the following week was the Nationals at Speed World that year. And I would be on a TQ run and just barely brush a board and just break parts left and right because they were, handmade parts and all this other stuff. And I just got upset, and I turned around, and I've seen people kick driver stands. You brought up Josh before. I've seen him hit a cement wall before, because he's upset. I've seen a lot of people do things. And I turned around and I hit the back of the driver stand. And as soon as I hit it, I go, oops, like I knew. And it made a loud noise. And if I was a driver on the driver stand, I would have been pissed off too. And I walked down the driver stand, and I looked after the race, and I looked at Billy Bowerman, who owned Speed World at the time. I said, can you find me a marshal? And he goes, why? And I said, I just can't marshal right now. He goes, I'll find you one. Right. And I walked to my pit, and I'm slowly packing up my stuff with my left hand. And I've got my right hand covered up with a towel. And the towel falls off. And the lady, we're pitted right next to the snack bar. The Associated pit was there. And the lady goes, oh, my God. And everybody turns around, and my hand was the size of a grapefruit. And I almost had it hidden. And I was going to say, I was getting out of the shower, and I slipped, and I hit my hand or something when I got back to the hotel, because it was the last round, the last heat of qualifying. And I almost got away with it. And then everybody knew that I broke my hand, hitting the driver stand. And that was the end of it. That was the beginning of the end with me at Associated. And 2 weeks went by, and it was a boxer fracture. And they had it in a soft cast. And 2 weeks later, the doctor said, you're totally fine, to be able to go do things. And Reedy and Cliff and them called me into the office and said, we're going to send the team to the Worlds, and we're going to keep you home from now for this year and see how the team works without you there. And then it was a lot of things happening. And then X-Ray called me and said, hey, we heard, you might be looking for a new ride. And I worked something out with RC America and asked, I was literally 2 years into a 5-year contract at Associated.
Cool. That's 5-year RC contracts.
Yeah, that's a long contract. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a long deal, and there was, a buyout and all this other stuff, and it finally just got to the point where it was just too much, and we separated mutually on terms that I thought, I did everything properly, and to this day there's still hard feelings, though, not on my side, but on the other side.
I think you were probably one of the highest paid chassis drivers at that time in that era from Associated.
I have two questions. Where did the word fabulous Barry Baker come from?
This is a real one.
1992. It was 92.
It was 92. 1992, because you can look this up. 1992 in Pomona was the 10-scale World Championships. Okay. John Thawley, God rest his soul.
Oh, there's a reference, yeah.
Yeah. John Thawley was the announcer.
Was that off-road or on-road?
It was on-road. It was 10-scale on-road pan cars. And I was running good, and I made the main, and John Thawley just pulled it out of the air because the year before, the Fabulous Baker Boys came out, the movie.
Right.
In 91, the end of 91 or something like that. And he said, it's the Fabulous Barry Baker. And it just has stuck ever since. It's gone from, the Fabulous Barry Baker, the Fabulous one, to just, Joe Pillars says fabulous all the time, It's just, but none of it in that, the way that Derek likes to say it.
By the way, the movie you just referenced from '89, so I don't know if that fucks with your timeline at all.
Oh, well, whatever. It's
There's no credibility on a year with Barry.
Well, I had to look because he's like, no, it came out a year before.
92, 2005. I don't know.
Okay, the Fabulous Baker, it came from that movie. So, but John Thawley's the one who actually gave me the name.
And since Jeff brought up pay, and you're not really employed by them anymore, let's talk about drivers' pay, because everybody thinks that either they make no money or they made a lot of money. What was your start? Because Scott Hughes told us what he started pay at Team Associates was like, what, $350 or $400 a month?
I know what Barry used to get paid from Associated.
Do you?
Yeah.
I want to hear the number, and I'll say yes or no because I'm not going to throw out numbers. I'm just going to tell you a round.
No, I want
in the Nitro TC3 days, you were getting $5K a month.
Okay, he's close.
$60,000 a year.
I knew what everyone was getting paid back then.
Yeah, everybody talked about it, but 60.
No, actually, a lot of people didn't
But,
know.
but can I tell you something? At that point, I was not making that much money just to race. Like I got a paycheck. Literally.
No, and that's often the way it is, right?
No, I got my paycheck from Associated, and then bye, Peter.
No, I'm coming back.
Oh,
He just likes to turn into white ball every once in a while. Scott made $500 when he started racing, so you got 10 times Scott Hughes.
Yeah, I was making. I think I was getting when I first started there like $15 an hour. And I was working hourly, and then they decided to pay me to race. And when they decided to pay me to race, it was a little bit, but then when I signed my 5-year deal, it jumped up a lot. And then a paycheck came from R&D as well. I would be working for R&D half the day, like when I was at tracks, and then
You raced well before Nitro TC3. Like you raced, was it?
I mean, I made good money at Yokohama. Yeah, I made pretty good money.
Yeah, Yokohama often paid well, also, but they had very few drivers, right?
Yeah, and I mean, back in the day, you got to remember. I mean, when I first rented my first apartment, it was for a 1-bedroom, 700 square foot apartment in Upland, it was $570 a month.
Right.
That same apartment goes for like $2,200 right now.
Yeah, right.
And somebody knows that you were in it.
Oh, they knew. They knew.
But you also would have had, even in the glory days of Associated with the high check, you would have also had a speed control check and a tire check and a motor check and all that. You only had the one?
Well,
Associated Reedy, so I think
I ran Associated
yeah,
Reedy,
that's fair. Okay.
Associated Reedy LRP, which was distributed by Associated.
Yeah, they're okay. That's fair. All right. Yeah.
And tire money back then was not. People weren't paying for tire money.
Right.
You'd get bonuses every once in a while, and if
even to this day, it's almost all contingency money, right?
Right. But I mean, Gil Losi Jr. gave me the greatest ideas back in the day, and I never took them. And that's the problem. Is I mean, he's like, if somebody wants to give you $25, $50 a month to run their product, imagine what 5 of those paychecks are like. Imagine what 10 of those paychecks are like.
Yeah. I mean, this again. Many of the drivers have multiple checks coming from all different pieces.
This day and age, it's ridiculous how many checks these guys get.
Yeah. Well, even back then, but yeah, right.
If you run a 7mm wheel nut and getting it from somebody, you're getting a paycheck.
Right.
So
7mm wheel nuts.
Who makes 7mm wheel nuts?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's talking about the hex, probably.
No, wheel nuts are they're 4mm wheel nuts, but the 7mm hex drive. Yeah, you're right. My credit.
Wheel nuts.
That's why you get paid for running 7mm. You're special.
Yeah.
Barry, is there a picture on the box, royalty or bonus, or that's just part of your job as a Team Associated guy at the time?
That was part of my job. They said, "Hey, we want to." I came out with. So when the car first came out, it had a spindle on the back that used a turnbuckle to adjust the rear toe, and if you touched a curb or something, that toe would change. So Curtis Husting and I decided, we're like, how can we make this change? And Curtis came up with this rad idea of putting these stop nuts on the turnbuckles. So for the longest time, you would take the stop nuts, you would loosen them up, you would adjust the toe, and then you would tighten these stop nuts down. And so it could pull out, but it could never push in to get less toe.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. And then finally I just said, to Cliff and them, I said, we need to redesign the rear end. We need to make a new rear end that has pivot balls on the rear end instead of a single one, double one on the bottom, and then we can do whatever we want with the top piece. Right. And Torrance de Guzman got on that, and we made a pivot ball. So when we introduced that car, it was called the factory team car. And they said, okay, we're going to put, because I had won and done some races.
There's the rear arms you're talking about right now.
Yeah. So
what were the arms before? Now I don't remember the other arms.
It was a single upper and lower pillow ball, It was a turnbuckle at the back that would do the toe, and then they went to 2 pillow balls on the bottom.
I don't remember that at all.
The front and the rear were the same. They still had
on the old car, the front and the rear were the same. Right?
And the rear had the steering spindle, but it was the same.
Stupid.
And then you would
have like a 632 turnbuckle or a 540 turnbuckle.
A lot like the new touring cars with these, active rear ends now. That you can change the bump steer and you can change the toe and everything. If you looked at a modern touring car these days, they have like these active rear ends and they use spindles on the rear with like looking caster blocks to hold everything.
Right.
So, but it was the same kind of situation where you could change bumps, you can change washers under the bumps under the turnbuckles, and you could actually get bump in or bump out, so you could get active toe when you're in the middle of the corner and accelerating out, actually have more outside toe. So there were many things you could do with it. Well, you couldn't do that with the new rear end, but it was way, way, way more robust, and you could go out race and finish 60 minutes.
That's the difference between electric and nitro. Is one's 4 minutes and the other's an hour.
Right.
Yeah, it's a whole different game.
It was faster for 4 minutes, but what's the other 56?
That's why the Nitro TC3 struggled so much initially, because it was an electric car with a nitro engine, and almost, obviously.
If they would have designed that car, designed that car to where the engine was the opposite way, which they couldn't do because there was a side exhaust engine at the time, and they
had the wacky exhaust on that, right?
Here, funny you mentioned. You know what's in this? You know what's in your box here, Barry? Is a bunch of tune pipes, and I have, funnily enough, a Nitro TC3 tune pipe.
But that's off of a rear exhaust motor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right.
Okay, and if you were to turn it the other way, you would run into the shock tower and everything. Right. If you were to flip the engine. But the biggest problem with that car was it would overheat the carburetor because the carburetor was behind. In order to get the rear exhaust in the front to have that loop, the carburetor was behind the head. So all the hot air would come through the head onto the carburetor, and the engine would vapor lock all the time.
Right.
And if they would have flipped the engine, okay, and had the carburetor in front and figured out a way to get the right angle to that car would have been. I still think it would be good. I think that
here's a testament too to what the cars are designed for, because on a race car they're all rear port, but because most companies win the races on the weekend and sell a ton of RTRs, they would have had to address the side port issue that you're talking about. Because on a race car, you say, screw the side port. We don't need it. No one's ever going to run a side port. But yeah, you will on an RTR or on a cheaper version of it. Sure.
I honestly think if anybody was to take that suspension geometry that's on that car right there and design a chassis that would accept a belt drive, that the diffs and belt drive system could fit in a gearbox style, but with the same geometry, arms and everything, that car would dominate nitro touring car still to this day. I think that's the best geometry that's ever been on a nitro car.
I'm going to build off of that, but is there a funny story behind the box art before we jump into my next?
Yeah. So the box art, clean shaven. I used to rock the goatee all the time.
Upper bottom.
What's that? But so the morning of the shoot, okay, I'm going to do my goatee and everything, and I just straight right across one and had like this big old dig in one side, and I'm like, this is just not going to be it, because Gary Owen at the time was like, hey, we're going to do shoots, we're going to do the photo shoot for your box and for the box and everything. Go, Derek, I knew that would get you to giggle. For the box art on for the Nitro TC3. So that morning I'm shaving, I screwed up, and I go, what do you do? So I just shaved off the bottom and had like this straight up looking, cop mustache, and I go, no, that doesn't work. So I just went clean shaven for the and then everybody's like, this isn't you, Barry, and I'm like, well, then draw a goatee on it or something. But yeah, so that's the reason why the box art is the way that it is with that. What's your next question?
Next. Yeah, what do you got, Derek?
Now serving number 23.
Well, talking about how great the Nitro TC3 was, are there any other cars or speaking of motors or other products that you can recall in your career where you were like, things just went to a whole nother level. This car is amazing. And of course, today's cars will be the best, better than all those things. But can you remember back certain years or models where you're like, yeah, from the RC10 to the B2, this is a huge leap and this is a lot better, or whatever you're driving, any kind of cars products that really jumped out at you from your long career?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say that when I drove the TC3 for the first time, I'm like, wow, this really is going to change touring car.
Remember, your boss is watching.
And it did.
And what was before? What was the hot car before TC3? Just like a Nitro RS4 or an RS4 Sport?
I think it was either an HPI or the Yokomo, the MR4 TC Pro or whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And the TC3 platform lasted for a long time. Didn't that last almost a decade or 8 years or something?
Yeah. No, I mean it did, but
unheard of now.
If you look at most cars out there to this day, and you take the triangle of the geometry on the touring car platform, the TC3 was a mistake, and nobody realizes that. The TC3, when they went to the TC4 actually, the TC5, sorry. The TC5 didn't have as much steering as the TC3 or the TC4. And the reason why it didn't have as much steering is when they made the front mold for the arm pivot, okay, it came out too wide. So instead of changing the mold on that, they just shortened up the front arm a little bit. Right. So it was supposed to be quadrasymmetric. The car was when it came out, the TC3, and the molders or the making of the mold, and everybody knows molds were expensive back then.
Right.
So instead of doing that, instead of making a new mold for the pivots, they just changed the front arm a little bit, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we have tons of steering. Well, on the TC5, they made everything quadrasymmetric. And when they made it quadrasymmetric, it took away all the steering in the car.
Right.
So, but what I was saying when the question you asked is on the TC3, when there was one day that I was talking to Torrance, and I said, man, I wish we had a wider front, a hole farther out on the arm that equaled where we were on the rear arm at the time, because you always had to run 3 steps stiffer front spring and stiffer oil and a different piston to make it feel right on the TC3, which it worked when you got everything right. And then Torrance one day just drew this up, and he said, okay, you got to go out to the mill. So I went out to the mill and asked Curtis if I could use it. He said, yeah. And I moved the hole over and I drilled some. That weekend I went up and tested, and I made, a good notebook for that weekend of testing. I used to write everything down. I even posted a couple months ago that I found my notebooks.
That's cool.
3 days. And I had notebooks of testing where I would write lap times down and do all of this stuff and make the changes. And a lot of people don't really do that anymore. And I came back and I said, Cliff, this really works. And he goes, well, are you going to test it? And I showed him notebooks, and he was a numbers guy. If you showed him that, you gave him data, and he looked at Torrance, and I told him, Torrance, help me get the numbers. He said, Torrance, do you have the numbers on this? Torrance says, I have an arm already, drawn up with it. And that's when we went to the rear, put a rear shock tower on the front. Remember when we did that? We put the rear shock tower on the front, and then we made the dual hole arms, front and rear. We made a hole farther inside for the rear arm and farther outside for the front, and it made everything the same triangle again on the car. And then we started running either silver or blue fronts and silver rears. You could run a little bit softer, and it would go on choppy tracks. It was way faster. We stood the shock up, so it just was better, even in higher bite, everything. You could do whatever you wanted to do with the car once we actually got it balanced on the suspension. And that's what that big change, what you asked me, that was probably the biggest that I think is changed, was when the TC3 went to that suspension in the front end. That changed touring car, because a lot of these cars this day have the exact same triangle for suspension, still to this day, if you were to measure everything.
Now, pre-TC3 belts were the preferred drivetrain. Then TC3 came along, and everybody had to have a shaft. Then we went back to belts. What happened there? That shaft was the preferred setup for a while.
Well, it was so efficient. That was the big thing. When everybody went to shaft, I mean, so another funny thing, I keep bringing up all these funny stories, but I mean, Associated showed up at the Chicago Hobby Show with a prototype TC3 that they just, I mean,
spun forever.
What's that?
It's spun forever.
Do you know why it spun forever?
I assume they massaged all the bearings and made sure everything was.
Dwayne Silva spent about 2 weeks on that drivetrain, sanding and filing everything, and then they put 2.5 ounces of lead on each one of the wheels, and then foam over the top of it, and then the tire on it.
Why are you doing the magic trick reveals right now? All the magicians are mad at you right now.
I didn't know. I didn't know
that either. But
yeah,
I know that
we knew a lot of
the car
behind the
was
scenes back in the day.
So that would make sense that they had to put weights on it to spin, right?
Yeah, they literally massaged every single gear. Dwayne said he spent like 2 weeks or a week or something on it. That he made sure that they were shimmed perfectly, that the gears had the right face on them, everything, and made it as free as possible. And then they put lead strip in the tires and then glued up the tires.
And all lead aside, I remember, and again, you could speak to this more than me, Barry, but those transmission, the TC3 trannies, you had to sand the inside of the diff cases, and you had to make clearances and shim, and there was some work to get them really free back in the day.
Back in the day of working on your car, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
If you look at a video of my TLR 22X4, I posted a video on my Facebook page of me spinning my 22X4, and I actually posted. I said, "Here's some old school touring car tricks." Where I went in there on my 13.5, my spec car, and I sanded the gears, and I did everything, and I massaged things, and I honed where the bearing goes onto the diff case. Right, I actually sanded that down so the bearing just slides on. There's no pressure to even put any kind of pressure into the bearing whatsoever.
And there's less of that needed these days because the molds are so much better and they're so much.
I don't know if they're better.
You still can do it, right?
Here's a big difference, because I was at the first Worlds in Yatabe with and you saw the difference in efficiency from belt to shaft, because that's back when you had to back off during the main. You couldn't give full throttle, and Pavitas was full throttle the whole thing. The big thing that changed that we don't give a shit about shaft anymore is that we have way too much power and way too much battery.
Well, shaft had problems too. Shaft would torque the car, would twist the car.
Yeah, but now it doesn't matter, because now you have so much power. It doesn't matter that belts rob more efficiency. Doesn't.
But if you remember, the cars used to have the torque steer.
Yeah,
right.
And at one point before the Worlds, Associated made the gear adapter out of like tungsten or something, to where it added a ton of weight, so it didn't have the torque steer in the car anymore. They like counterbalanced the shaft somehow, and they tried it, but it actually took away a lot of power and all this other stuff. So they had to deal with the torque steer, where if you looked at the front steering blocks on a TC3, if you turned right, you had full lock. If you turned left, the bump was molded a little bit further, so you couldn't get as much steering to the left. So it actually, you had less dual rate to the left than you did to the right on a TC3, so it would keep
when you were like dual right. Don't ever mention that again.
Yeah.
When you were in the middle of the corner and you would accelerate, it wouldn't want to jump left on you, because you were already, it wouldn't lock the suspend or the drivetrain up when you were at full lock on the left-hand side. And every time I used to start a main, I literally would wiggle my wheels, get ready, and I would just barely turn to the right a little bit and accelerate, and my car would go straight.
Yeah. You have the motor, the inertia of the motor is rocking the whole car one way. That's the advantage of belt.
And Automatics fixed that when they came out with a car. Oleg from Russia, because the Automatics is a Russian car. That's where he lives. He designed the floating front gearbox. That was somehow, it was on like these O-rings and this stiff material that, when you accelerated, the diff housing would torque, okay, but keep everything else straight in the car, and the car would go dead straight.
Sounds like Russian propaganda to me.
So he designed that car, and I mean the floating gearbox, and that car was when it first came out, it had the same problems, and then he figured it out, and he made that floating gearbox, and the Awesomatics was the best, absolutely the best touring car there was. And now that all these cars have way too much power and way too much this and way too much that, you can go back to belts, and it makes the car easier to drive. I tried
rubber band in, rubber band out.
Your buddy Adam says the Awesomatics is the only shaft car with 0 torque steer. That's like saying front wheel drive cars have no torque steer. It 100% has torque steer. There's no way around that, taking that out.
It's so greatly reduced that it's not noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, they may have figured out how to not have the car spin out, but it's just. This has
been a conversation in the like. This is off topic, but the same thing. I went out to dinner with the Serpent guys at one of the Worlds, and they talked about crankcases on engines and if there's any differentiation on the ears. So they were having rubber mounted engine mounts, and this torque and twisting, and this is a huge conversation in engineering and in race cars in a number of topics. This is a big one.
But
agreed.
But back to the TC3. I mean, Associated, they certainly knew that the motor's torque would be applied to the chassis a certain way. But at that time, they were like, it's worth it for the efficiency.
For the underpowered motors and batteries.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
It's worth it, yeah.
But I honestly think, and this isn't because of, this name on here, but I honestly think that the JRXS changed touring car again. And the only problem is with that 3-belt system, or with the belt system that they had, it was inefficient. I think I tried to talk Todd into this the other day, and he said absolutely not. But I said if the JRXS ever came back, I said with LiPo batteries and brushless, I said that thing would be.
Wait, was that the 3-belt one or the single belt?
The 3-belt.
The conversion.
What was that single belt one?
Car, right?
Single belt, I thought was the S.
The Triple X was the single belt car, and then they had which they also turned into a buggy. And they also had a conversion of the street weapon of the 4-wheel drive buggy as a
The street weapon was their first touring car.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you're talking about, the triple belt then.
Right. That was their first touring car. Then they came out with the front motor, which was called the JRXS. It wasn't front; it was just behind the turbo.
Right. Now I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. And it had pulley here.
Triple XS.
Okay. And then a pulley way over here. And then it had the standard pulley. So I think it was 3 belts. It was 2 smaller belts with a side pulley to get out of the way of the battery. But that was inefficient as well. But they made it work because they made everything super free. And then they moved the motor to the backside and they called it the JRXS Type R. And that, I think, that car this day would be awesome. Or even the front motor car would be awesome because I think their design of their car was great. And then they came out they took their 4-wheel drive vehicle, the Triple X.
Yes.
And no, it was a 4-wheel drive vehicle first, and then they made it a touring car, the Triple XS. If you remember I'm sorry.
No. The first one was off-road. They made an on-road car, and then the second one they made an on-road car. Made an
on-road car, and they made it into an off-road car. And I think Yuka won with it. And
that's when they ruined the off-road car, and when they ruined the on-road car.
Well,
they did it backwards.
Whatever. Time. Don't take anything from me that's involved with time. But yeah, so I tried to get. I actually 1992. 1992. You're going to start every show with Barry Baker in 1992. Yeah. So, but I tried to talk Todd into that the other day, and that wasn't flying. So, it is what it is.
How often, if ever, as a factory driver, did you ever think to yourself, "I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have the best car because brand X right now has a better car than I do"? Was that a frequent thing, especially in those touring car days when it was kind of anything goes, and we were still figuring out what makes a good touring car work?
I mean, you got to remember, I ran Yokomo at their peak, so I had the best car, the best touring car that was out there. I mean, Masami and Masaki would change that car every 4 months, and I mean, we had the best car moving forward. And then when I switched to Associated, that's when their car was competitive with Yokomo, and then all of a sudden we made that change to the Associated car, and then we had the best car in the market. We also had the best drivers, which helped out. And then I mean, because with Billy and Mark, they could drive anything, and they were running touring car. And then myself and Blackstock and Dumas and Cyril, and I mean that we
was a strong lineup.
Yeah,
early 2000s was a strong touring lineup for Associated, yeah,
or 92,
or 92, one of the two.
Well, 92 was good for Yokomo. So, but and then when I switched from Associated, I went to the new car that was out on the market. That was the X-Ray, and that was the best car for a little while. And then, like Junior told me at that time, I was trying to, explain some things that Junior had told me about, $25 check, 50 check, things like that. He goes, man, there's so many companies in China right now that are trying to hit our market.
Yeah.
He goes,
and they'll pay.
You should go hook up with one of them and develop a touring car with them. Yeah. This is what he told me.
Trinity?
No, this was what, Gillosi Jr.
No, but that's what Ernie would do. He would just buy an existing platform off of someone that's probably already made one.
But he's all go develop, one with them. He goes, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. So I'm like, maybe this is a try. So I made a phone call and, got hooked up with Team Magic after, and that was my regret.
Right.
Team Tragic. And I got, I ran for them at a couple races and just was not very good. Kept sending them emails. This is wrong. Let's do this. Let's do that. And got an email back that said, we can no longer afford pay you. So I think it went into Google Translate. And that's how it came out, was we can no longer afford pay you. And
Google Translate is better than that.
Oh, well,
not 1992, it wasn't.
No, 92, yeah, there wasn't.
Yeah, I took all my product and put it on eBay. Or didn't put it on.
I didn't know you ran
There's your last page.
Actually put it on RC Tech and got a call like instantly and sold all my stuff so I could pay my rent and everything. I mean, I was literally on the verge of being broke right about then.
Were you aware of other, like if you're a factory driver, are you like so focused on making your brand X car work that you're not really paying attention to what other cars look like? Or were you looking at the landscape and saying, man, HPI RS4 Pro 3, that's not going to work, or anything that was happening in the scene?
I was a bad person about that. I would always say this brand has this brand has that, this brand has this. I was looking at everything. Now
yeah, you have to.
You have to. And I mean, the companies this day and back then, if you didn't buy the competitor's car and look at it and build it up and look at it, there's something wrong. You need to look at this stuff. You can't just, you look at what's fast, you build it up, you find out the reason why it's fast, and you improve on it if you can.
Right.
Well, back in the day, I used to come back and I would get answers like, well, that's their car, that's not ours. Let's work with ours.
No, but even Nissan. I mean, Derek will probably know more than I do about this. But Nissan, whenever they go to the track with any vehicle, they bring a Porsche with them. And
excuse me, I'll translate for everybody else. Nissan.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Nissan. Yeah, they bring a Porsche everywhere they go to benchmark, no matter everything they're doing. You have to know what the competitor is. Sort of like your story about Associated when they went to the track on Monday and saw your lap times from Yokomo on Sunday. You have to know what the other teams are producing and doing on the track and in the design area. You have to.
Well, car developers do, and if Barry was listening to that, that's fine. But I mean, as a racer, you might.
Well, but the driver is a car developer as well. The guy that's doing the CAD drawings needs the input from the driver.
That's if an engineer is willing to take advice or input.
Well, if they want to build a winning car, they're going to have to, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you hear that, hey, brand X is the best car out there, okay, and you're going to develop a car, and you don't go buy brand X and build it and drive it with the current setup that is the best, and you go out there and you don't drive it, that's your fault.
Yeah, of course. Right. Yeah.
By the way, I didn't know you ran for Team Magic, so I went to RC Tech, and on 7/9 of 2008 or 92 in your terms, that's when you announced you're running Team Magic.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Thanks for Shane for coming on. I forgot about RC Tech. There's so much.
I'm just
surprised your login still worked.
Yeah, me too. By the way.
Well, even Shane said at some point he hasn't been on this site in 10 years.
Wow. Well, I mean, he sold it to like some conglomerate, didn't he?
They always end up getting sold to some,
some advertising place.
Yeah, it was I forget the group. It was like a group that was trying to buy all the hobby ones. Forget what it was. If he's still on, he'll tell you.
Did they get?
I allowed him to buy a bar apparently because he says he bought a bar.
Trinity Tech Talk. Remember that one?
Yeah, starting grid. All that.
I remember Tech Talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Starting grid with what was that? Mike Myers.
Yeah. Oh, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he still around?
I heard. I mean, I've heard.
We've all heard many things, I'm sure, but
right. But I mean, last thing I heard was he was in Thailand.
Yeah, that's sort of makes sense. I guess.
That's for our Pornhub channel.
So, Barry, if you get the call from TLR and they said, "Hey, Barry, you know what? Whatever race you think you can win at the international level, we're going to back you to go do that." What would you want to do? They said, "Just you can put in all the time and everything you need to go be the best racer you can be right now."
I'm over that. I'm
Right.
at the point right now.
That's what you might say.
They said, "No, we want you to do this as your job, and we're going to pay your salary to do it. You have to do it."
I have a great job right now. And
Don't be out of the answer.
what?
Don't be a pussy. Answer the question.
Well,
He's already done it all. I can still carry the position here.
TLR products, right?
That's like asking Allen Iverson, "Hey, you never won a world championship. Would you go back?" Nah, I don't want to win. Yes, you do. What the F would you want to win?
But TLR doesn't make the product that I would want to go back and race and win. But out of their products,
Nitro Touring, not A scale.
No, but
A scale on.
Yeah.
Todd just DM'd me. He said, "We'll develop whatever car Barry wants."
No, he won't, because probably say you're an idiot.
Yeah, which he'd be right.
But out of the TLR brand, I think I would want to go. I love race. I have so much fun running Nitro off road. Nitro, the A scale program is so good, and I mean, I'm really upset because I really feel that I could have been part of a world championship team this year, because I think Dakota, if we would have gone to Brazil to race the worlds, I really think he had a really good shot at winning the worlds this year. And he has many years to come. I mean, the kid's 23 years old, so I mean, he's got many years to come.
Do you feel like he started racing when he was 0? So I guess he's
been. Yeah, exactly. He started racing when he was like 8 or 9, when he was on the scene. So, but I mean, he's only run. I mean, his whole professional career has been with TLR, with low C / TLR. So, but I really feel this year, and I feel that I would have been able to go and be his mechanic. I think I would have got, in a roundabout way, my world championship that I wanted to get.
Such a pussy. You want to win A scale Nitro? I'll answer the question.
A
scale Barry can go back with unlimited potential, unlimited funding. A scale Nitro in Italy
for TLR. Okay, for TLR. Okay, but any products, I want to win an A scale on road worlds. I still think that's the Formula One of all of racing.
Yeah,
that is by far. If you win that worlds, you have the top stuff, because you're on the edge the whole time. The engine.
Can I be honest with you? You've run that class, right?
Yep.
It's not as hard as some of the other classes.
Yeah, it is as hard as some of the other classes.
No, it's not
I'm
as
not
hard.
saying it's easy, but
it's not as hard to get around the track.
Or 10 scale modified pan car is way harder to drive than that car.
The clutches on those cars are harder than anything in this industry.
Let Barry talk.
Yeah, go.
No, it's okay. I love listening. We're babbling.
That's right.
We're babbling. No, I think A scale on road is, as Derek says, not as hard to get around the track. Okay, it's as you think it would be, but I think it's hard to go fast.
It's very competitive and fast, but when you drive it, those cars are freaking ground. You just got to keep your finger on.
Well, engines have changed, okay, but not as much as the cars have. Now you've got cars that have so much, these bodies have so much downforce. I mean, they actually slow the engines down. Right. The cars would be faster and way faster without the downforce. I mean, they're running these bodies forward, and they're taking the spoiler and they're just extending it as far as they can, and it's become a vacuum. I mean, you hear these things come out of the corner, and they're just lugging. You know, the clutch is just bogged down. You know, and when they shift down the straightaway, they take off. But I mean,
you have to have, in order to win a Nitro A scale race, okay, because now it's handout tires and they're all the same size, at all these big races. So everybody's on the same tire. So now you have to have the body of the month because the bodies change every single month on there. Somebody adds another little wicker bill in the center of the body. Oh my God, it's got 10% more downforce. You can drive it so much harder. Okay. And then you have to have a clutch that is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, the clutch will scare the shit out of you.
And everybody makes these specialized clutch springs now that are high temperature and they don't compress as much. And you make, you used to be able to make quarter turns or half turns and you made a big deal. Now you make a 16th of a turn and you've gone too far. And, and if the clutch isn't right, you're never going to get your engine right.
Yeah, right.
So, first thing,
if the car is right, like take away the mechanic side, the cars are fairly, if you know how to drive, you can get on there and you'll be like, oh, this is kind of easy.
But you're taking the most difficult component. You're saying the builds and the setup of these cars is the crazy
mechanics. I know we get into this discussion all the time. We're not racing mechanics. The Formula One drivers,
it's not
mechanics are really good mechanics, but in the end, it's a car.
I sat beside Searle many a times while he built and mechanicked on his car before he drove it. Like you can't say take out the component of setting up the clutch and aren't they easy to drive? Yeah, they're easy to drive because the clutch is set up right. They're easy to drive because the car was built right. Go through the pits out of Worlds and you'll shit yourself. The tech level. Barry's right. It's the Formula One of RC for a reason.
I know, I get it, but I'm not going to shit myself.
You're gonna poo.
Not even a little I really got to go and a prairie dogged out. I'm not even Mark.
I'm going to make sure there's poo involved here.
Right. I will guarantee you this: if I built the car, it will never, ever, ever, ever win the Worlds because.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we can agree.
You got to also remember this: the cars are going so fast. Okay, they're actually slower than they used to be on the straight. But if you took short speeds, like from corner to corner.
Sure.
It's like sector speeds, they're faster. But on the straight line speed, they're probably a couple miles an hour down because of the downforce.
Right.
But you touch one thing. First off, the bodies are paper thin now. Because if you get a body that's normal thickness, your car's slow.
Yeah, it's too heavy.
Yeah. So you have to get these paper thick.
They even have to thin bodies, and then they put reinforcers into
everywhere. Right, because they flutter going down the straight.
Right.
Okay. So, hey, take the Peter's here. And then say hi to Peter. Peter's got toys.
You can never play government.
No, we'll be okay. But let me finish this. Okay. We'll talk in a bit.
No barking.
By the way, after the last show, we had about a 40-minute toy show and tell between Pete and
I have to tell this because my son's addicted to Godzilla, and he came in after the show and was talking about. I said, "Oh, talk to Peter. Peter's into toys as well." And my son Vetter asked about Godzilla, and Peter, like not even a blink of an eye, bends down and pulls a toy in the box out from under his, like no prompting. I didn't say, "Hey, get some Godzilla toys for my kid later." Just unprompted, pulls out a Godzilla toy and reaches over on his shelf and pulls off another one. Peter's got all the toys.
Did you say your son's name is Vetter?
Yeah, like Eddie Vedder, but
do you have a Pearl Jam tattoo somewhere on your body?
I do not, and I got the idea from Eddie Vedder, but he's not named after the artist. But yes,
it's not named after him. It's just the idea of him.
Who else is he going to be named after?
Do you know? I mean,
better.
No, I mean, like I wasn't like an ode to him. In other words, what I'm saying, but right.
Okay.
I don't have my hat anymore. You gonna make some hat jokes there, Derek?
No, I just think you still have a man bun.
Yeah. You like that?
Canada's 10 years behind. Man buns were like 10 years.
Hey. Come on, Bax.
All right. Finally, someone else's dog.
Everybody's marking.
Yeah.
All right.
Did we break a record for the longest episode here?
Are we really even close to touching, the surface of where we really wanted to go on this whole episode today?
We answered some pretty good questions. I think it was pretty good.
Were there any good questions from like listeners, the 2 listeners or 2 viewers that we had?
Somebody farted, a deadly one.
How many actual viewers do you think we had at one point? 4, 5.
The live isn't huge. We end up between 2,000 and 4,000 total is what the show ends up getting.
Oh.
The live, I don't know what the actual live is, but between YouTube and Facebook, it's a low end is 2,000, high end is 3,000 or 4,000.
I mean, I thought I was cool when we did one of those lives, the first one. I'm like, oh man! At one point, it had like 147 people, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool, right? And then I watched something, that was live. Who was it? I think it was Adam with Thomas Tran on the TLR one. It had like close to like 300 people at one point. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. We'll never get that unless we get.
Barry broke his other hand.
No. No. So, but no, I mean, it was fun, guys. Thanks. I mean,
well, thanks for coming on. Yeah, that was awesome.
I think it was a super good show. I'd love to have Barry back on again.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We could talk forever on.
Yeah, we could. I mean, the thing is I've been around so long. I mean, you can ask me questions about anybody, and I can, I mean,
who was the highest paid driver ever? That was one of the questions.
Hara.
Who do you think?
Who I think the highest paid driver is ever?
Hara, Tebow, maybe. Tebow may have had some good years.
No. Well, are you talking bonuses or are you talking just straight paycheck?
Because most of it's contingency money.
What do you pay taxes on?
I'm going to say that it's going to either be the way things are structured right now.
Barry Baker.
I know. I'm going to say Mayfield or Spencer.
Like all time?
For a single year?
Yeah.
You got to remember it's a very narrow high pay time.
Yeah, he's in
you only make the low six figures for 3 or 4 years, and then
well, let's calculate inflation too. Can we have an inflation calculator?
I mean, it's just.
I remember Tebow's biggest year when we used to talk back then, and there's I think I heard some horror numbers as well. There's no one's making $250,000 or anything crazy like that. It's a really good driver will make 6 figures. Barry, are you with me on this or?
Yeah, I think I think close to 200,000.
I heard that there's somebody in the industry right now that's making over 200,000 a year base pay.
Yeah, okay, well that's interesting. Yeah.
So,
to Derek's point about inflation, what would you say was the peak year for RC racing, where like they were just throwing money at guys to win races, the biggest teams, the most travel, the biggest budgets? Like, when do you think that was?
1992.
Yeah, early 2000s were pretty lucrative. For
I'm gonna say mid 2000s. I remember the time where RC America, was sending everybody to races, and
it's a new Infinity,
and they were paying myself, Lemieux, Dumas, Blackstock, Ralph Birch. This paycheck, that paycheck, that had to be expensive at that time. And then to send everybody to races. To go to a race is not cheap.
No, not at all. Not because 7 days or at least, right?
You're looking at hotels. You're looking at the airport. For Derek, you're looking at hookers. It's like,
Hey, you have the Trinity shirt, not me.
I don't.
Trinity used to pay really well. Trinity used to pay really, really well.
Yeah, no, very true. Trinity does pay. You still. I'm sure Dakota makes a good paycheck from them. So, these companies, they've all changed. They've all gone from, let's pay to win races to now it's, how do we keep everything going and stay in the black, not the, go to the red situation? Because, you got to remember back in the day, there were only a certain amount of people going for that one slice of pie. Now there's 30-something car companies, where before it was 3, 4.
Yeah.
There was a I forget what it was. I think it was an 8 Skill Worlds where there was, I believe, 8 or 9 different chassis in the final, which is crazy. Yeah. Like what you said, it used to just be the old Associated Losi rival and maybe one other team kind of a thing. Whereas now you have 7, 8, 9, 10.
My 4-wheel drive rant, that 4-wheel drive trumps engineering.
Well, I disagreed then, and I'll disagree now as well.
Okay, so to end this, and this is the only way.
Eddie's right.
This is the only way I can end this. In electric racing, do you think reverse should be allowed?
electric in any electric racing.
Well, not nitro, because it adds an obvious dumb thing. There's no reverse on a nitro engine. So you think in racing. So in the modern times of you're on the track and you crash, should you be allowed to back up and continue on your race, or do you have to wait for Jeff to corner marshal you?
It's your. I don't believe in reverse. So.
Yeah, of course you don't. And Derek, you got to stop asking the pros. No pro is ever gonna want reverse.
What?
Did you go to Barry? What'd you go to Barry? You didn't do anything.
And there's a reason why
you don't know how to go backwards and not crash.
Yeah, but could you imagine having reverse? You turn in early to a corner, you get stuck, you hit reverse out of there. You're not waiting you aren't being patient to let the guy go by.
I'm not arguing if the retard who crashed would be including me, backs up into traffic if that's wrong. I'm saying if you were in a spot that you could just back up and continue on your way.
But the point Barry just made is the point I've been making.
Yeah,
that's how it would work.
You guys crash.
Leading an A main.
This is the problem. This was Barry back in 1992. When he crashed, he cried.
Barry back in 2000.
Everybody out. It wasn't to back into traffic.
Thank you, Barry. I knew you were going to say that. Derek has got a hard on for someone to be on his side with reverse, but it's not going to happen.
I'm like ready to say something, and all of a sudden it's like advertising.
But I'm ending this stuff.
We're still live. Go